What is up, guys? So let's get started on our Express backend. So first of all, let's initialize the package.json and let's install Express session. This is going to help us with storing our sessions in memory and setting the cookies on the user. Passport, this is going to help us authenticate. We're going to install the passport-google-oauth 20 library so we can do authentication with Google. The .env library so we can set some environment variables and use them in our project, and cores because since we're going to be communicating with our React server and the backend, they're going to be communicating together, we need to have cores, which is cross-origin resource sharing. I'm pretty sure it stands for that. So let's install that. And if you haven't already, do install globally nodemon. All right. So let's set up a script for development. And let's make it nodemon app.js. And app.js is going to be our main file. Nodemon is basically an application that runs a Node app, and then every time you save that file, it restarts the Node app, so you don't have to restart it every time you save it. And let me give this a description. So let's start our project. Let's create our app.js. And we're going to want to import Express. And we're going to want to initialize Express. Call it app. And then we're going to want to listen. And then the listen function is basically saying our app is going to listen on a port. We can say 4000. And then when it listens, we can give it a callback. So when the server's set up, it's going to call this. And let's just log it to the console. And let's set up an environment variable and store a port there. So so we can see, is there something in the process.environment variables.port? And if there is, we use that. And if there's not, if it's undefined, just use 4000. And to use environment variables, we need to import .env and call .config, and that'll load it into our process. All right, so let's set up cores. So first let's import it and let's set it up. So let's set up as a middleware, and basically when you do app.use, your app.use is a way to set up middleware for your app. So when someone sends a request to the server, it sends it to the app, and then the request goes through every single app.use in order from top to bottom. And if we do app.get, it does the same thing, but it checks, is it a get request? And then it does it. So everything in Express is basically middleware. So here we're going to set up cores, and cores runs as a function, and it takes in an object as a parameter, and that object takes in some properties that are options. And we want to set credentials to true, which means we want to communicate our cookies with the other domain. And we want to set our origin. So what is the domain that we're communicating with? Let's set it here in our environment variables. For now, it's just localhost 3000, which is our React app. All right, we got that set up. Next, let's set up express session. And let's use it as in other middleware. So let's say every time a user sends a request, let's set a cookie on them, which is going to have a unique ID. And that unique ID is going to basically be like the key to a dictionary. And that dictionary is going to hold in their session information, which we're going to work with later. Let's do app dot. Okay. App.use session, which also has the same like works kind of the same as course. The secret, so we want to generate the unique IDs, but we need a seed, and that's going to be the cookie secret, and we want to store that here. So this has to be a secret, and if no one has the secret, no one can generate our cookies. So let's set this to a bunch of random letters and numbers and import that here. I think it has to be a string, not sure. And let's set our cookie settings. We're gonna get secure. We're gonna set that to auto. This is saying, do we want the cookie to be sent through HTTPS, which would be secure? And if we only want it to be sent through HTTPS, we set it to true. Since we're working with HTTP localhost, we set it to auto, so it automatically detects if it's being sent through HTTP or HTTPS and allows it either way. Same site has to be set to lax because we're working on development on our local host, so this is going to work for us. It's still going to transfer over to our different ports in the same domain. However, when you push to production and you're working with different domains and different servers, you have to set this to none. So same site restrictions are none. And if it's none, auto is not going to work. You have to set this to true. So only HTTPS. But those settings don't work for us because we're in development. So let's do that real quick. So if we're in production, we want this set to true, otherwise lax. And same site, if we're in production, set to none, the restriction. Oh, sorry. And if we're in development, we set this to no, lax. This is lax, and this one is auto. Sorry. Resave. We set this to false. We don't need to resave the cookie for no reason. Save and initialized. Set that to false. Okay. So we got express session, we got cores set up. Now let's import passport, which we're going to use for authentication. So that's going to be another middleware that we use. And we want to initialize it. And you don't have to use passport sessions, but in this project we are going to use passport sessions. So we want to initialize that as well. And passport session, all it does is it does some things for you in express session. We're going to look at that later. That's, you need express session. That's where we're storing our sessions, but passport session just works with express sessions to do some things for you and makes it more convenient for us. So we got all that set up. let's set up some routes. So instead of doing the routes here like so, instead of doing this, we want to keep our main file organized. So let's set up a routes folder, and inside of that we're going to have an index router.js and an auth router.js. And here we're going to import express. Forgot we can't do that. And we want to initialize our router. And do module.exports equals router. To export this router, be able to import it to our app, right? And then we need this also in our auth router. So here let's do app.get. So when they navigate to just slash, which is like the home directory, we have access to the request, the response. And we just want to send them hi home. And here we do app. I don't know why it keeps doing that. So when they go to slash, we get the request, the response, and we send them back response.send auth. Now these files do look the same, but they don't do the same thing, right? So if you didn't know, const index router. So let me just import these routers. So basically, we're gonna do app.use, which is another middleware. And app.use can also take a string. So whenever the user is at the slash, what do we want to do? We want to redirect them to this. And that's what the router does. And whenever they're at slash auth, we redirect them to this file. And so slash auth, they go to this. And so this is already slash auth because they already went to slash auth, but now they're at slash after this. So that's why they look the same, but they're not the same. All right, so we got everything set up. Let's set our node environment to equal development. And let's run this. Okay, we got a crash. Oh, wow, I really forgot. Okay, it's not app here, it's router. Sorry. Because we're not using our app, you're using the router, which is kind of like a mini app, but it has different syntax. So let's navigate over here to localhost 4000. And here we have our root path, which is sends back /home, and we go to auth, sends back hi auth. All right, so this is Express for you. We got Express set up, and the next episode we're gonna get started on authentication with Passport. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.